Hi there, I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome once again to Reading Aristotle's Politics. Today we finally turn to Book 8, which is the last book of the Politics. Book 8 deals with education mostly. It'll be about the question of education. Now, um, I'm going to just end with the politics. Usually people will suggest that you should read Aristotle's Poetics after the politics because this continues, the theme of education in drama and plays that deals with the question of poetry, which in music, and that is the function of education that deals with it. But I'm not going to. I'm going to just leave that. We're going to end the politics with the politics. Okay. Um, Maybe I should someday do the thing. I know people who say we should read it. I we had those of I a couple of years ago I engaged in a reading group where we read the Poetics. Uh, the Poetics is a very interesting book about that. I studied it with undergraduate and graduate studies myself, particularly those who studied literary theory. It's one of the principal texts of literary theory. But no, today we're focusing on chapter one. This is going to be a short chapter because this is chapter one looking at book eight. Okay, so we're going to do this. Again, this deals with education, the question of education. We end book seven on this discussion of the stages of education. Now we're going to be going, and he raises three questions, and now he's going to be looking at the question of answering those kind of questions in light of this chapter. Okay. In fact, we should just look kind of second. They go back here, and what must be investigated is whether there should be public education or not. It should be private or this. What, that's the second one. The third, what we investigate some arrangement, creation of education, right? Whether it's that private, and whether it should happen as most of these do it privately or do it should be publicly. And the third thing is what quality should this have? So first was we must investigate whether some sort of arrangement is to be created in connections with children. So what kind of education arrangement should be for children, right? This is the idea here. And then the question then goes from whether it should be common or this or that. Remember, the education of children is between those. He's talking about the two groups: the pre-puberty and post-puberty, right? These is the things. This is how he ends at the stage, and therefore this is where we're going to turn to here now. Chapter one in the book 8. What the legislator must, therefore, make the education of the young his object, above all, would be disputed by no one. Okay? Okay, this is the big thing. That the law concerned about the education of the young, no one's going to dispute this, right? Where this does not happen in cities, it hurts the regime. So if you don't take care of this, if the city does not take care, the regime does not, the city does not address this, or Bolivia does not address it, it hurts the regime in question, right? One should educate with a view to each sort of person, right? Each sort, for the character that is proper for each sort of regime, both customary regarding the regime and establish it at the beginning, the democratic character in a democracy, for example, or the oligarchic character of an oligarchy, and the better character is always a is a clause for a better regime. So therefore, a better character and a better regime, right? So therefore, this is one note one. Let's get note one for a second. This is reading with Ross and Kraut rather than bestons of manuscript and Denziner. The best, in other words, bit reading with Beltran rather than Bistron. Right? I'm not sure. Better or best? Best. This is the question: is this better characteristic or best? Better is comparative, right? Best means the best character. I think the best regime, the better. I think he's doing better. I think again, this is the problem here: the better and better. Is it not? It seems to be the problem of how you read the adjective here. The character is always the cause of the regime. So therefore, a better character is always the cause of a better regime. I think that's an interesting thing. This relationship between the education and the kind of regime you get. You have to educate. You have to educate for the regime. You have to educate the children to have affection for the regime, to believe in the regime. Okay, this is the purpose. Oh, propaganda. Yes, but no. Yes, it's not, but it's not lies. These are the this is the regime needs people to believe in it. The regime you have, a particular regime, so democracy will emphasize a democratic character. What are the things that democracies emphasize? The freedom, liberty, equality, right? Where oligarchies or the wealthy, excellence. In other words, regimes will have certain values, value is the wrong word. Things that they do value in that sense. Things that they believe are just and believe is right, and that you should know what is right and just, right? Further, in relation to all capacities and arts, there are things with respect to which a preparatory education and habituation are required with a view to the tasks of each. So it's clear that this is also with a view to the with a view to the actions of virtue. In other words, excellence. In other words, you have to have education. In other words, in order to do things, to act and to carry out things, you're going to need preparation. This is also true with the questions of virtue, the actions of virtue. You need preparation, and therefore you have to educate and habituate, perpetuate. You have to, education is teaching them things, but also habituating them to the necessary things preparatory for them to engage in the skills, the arts, but also virtue. This is what is to be done here with this. So so in relation to all capacities and the arts, there are things that need the preparatory education, habituation as required, with a view to being able to execute those tasks or do those tasks, right? So therefore, this is also true. What is also true. If this is true about um, capacities and arts. This is also true of the action of virtue, being the execution of virtue, executing virtue. Now he looks at the next paragraph. This is divided into two Greek paragraphs. The first paragraph is two sections, and the next paragraph is four sections. This is a short chapter. Since there is a single end for the city as a whole, the city has a goal. The city has an end. Attention. That it is evident that education must necessarily be one and the same for all, and that the superintendents or those who care for it should be common and not on the private basis. The idea here is right. The matter in which each at present superintends his own offspring privately and teaches whatever sort of learning he holds best. So the common manner is usually that private parents are responsible for their children. But he's saying that no, that needs to because of the regime, because there's a regime that needs to have you to have pre-preparations for and have certain know certain things that the regime needs you to know in preparation to do these things. It's not just enough to have parents doing it. In other words, there needs to be superintendents of it should be common and not private basis. The manner of which each parent superintends his own children, his own offspring privately, and teaches them whatever private things he learns best. For common things, the training should also be common. So they're common words. So private things, of course, private things are then, but the common things need also common education, something they share. That everyone shares the same thing. They have the same They have all the same things they share. All the citizens share the same education. Okay, this is something that they share in common with each other. Therefore, it founds the basis by which that they are able to communicate and see each other as citizens. Okay. At the same time, one ought not to consider that a particular citizen belongs to himself, but rather all belong to the city. In other words, all citizens really, for each is a part of the city. So therefore, this is the part is related to the whole. That the part is not independent of the whole. Everyone is connected to the city. Oh my God, this sounds like collectivism. If you once you use the language of collectivism, you've already rigged the game with the idea of the autonomous individual. Blah, blah. But the autonomous individual is bullshit because we're not born autonomous individuals. We're born child dependent. We're born in like as David Starkey quoting Saint Augustine, born between piss and shit. In other words, we're not born free and independent creatures. We're born dependent creatures. Who don't choose. We don't choose to be born. We are thrust into life. We are thrust into existence without our willingness to participate. We don't choose. This is not a voluntary act. Birth and existence is not a voluntary. It is. It is simply. It is. It happened. You're there. And therefore, this is what the thing about this is, that it needs to understand this in that sense. And therefore, life and therefore education as teaches us common. We are both, we are created by our parents. We are born in families. We're dependent, our life is dependent on our care we receive. We knew without that care we would die. And that therefore there's an obligation to, this leads us to mutual integration. This fact that people cared for us leads to that we have an obligation to those who we cared for us. Okay, this is creates that we help them and therefore they help us and we help our children. This idea of this is a this the bound of human societality, our animal natures, our social or political nature, and that the community is thus we're not only for ourselves, we are social creatures. And the city, for Aristotle, the city, or the Greek understanding of the polis, is that embodiment of a common life together that allows us to live our life beautifully, live our life well. So therefore, it's this way. It's not just only for ourselves. Living for ourselves, we would not, unless we're gods, we won't be able to enjoy. We won't be able to live well, beautifully, unless we're super beings. Only the only people who don't need other people are gods or animals. In other words, beasts. Beasts are gods. This is we need the city. That the human being need the city to fulfill their nature. This is the city, the political community, the koinonia that best allows us to actualize and to achieve our happiness, or demonia, fulfillment, as or fulfill happiness understood as fulfilling our nature as a social political being. Now, therefore, this is why you need to do it this way, right? So, therefore, this, in other words, um, he says that at the same time, one ought not to consider that a particular citizen belongs to himself, right? So, but he belongs to the whole city. For each is a part of the city, right? The question. You have to know your role. What is the role you have in the city? What is the role of the U.S. citizen in the city? What is the role? You have to understand the part you are and the role you play in this thing. But the superintendent of each part, those who oversee, superintendent, attendants, those who oversee, each part naturally looks to the oversight of the whole, the superintendents of the whole. In other words, the part, to understand the relation of the part is to understand its relationship, what function and thing, purpose it serves in regards to the whole. So therefore, the citizen does not have meaning outside of his role within the whole. Collectivism! Oh my God, this is horrible. No, it's like this is the nature. This is our identity. Our identity is often human identity is not self creation. It's often our identity is often things of given in terms of our function, our role, our purpose in this thing is tied to our purpose here. Living, yes, as the purpose of a human being, we're living well, but we achieve this living well and living beautifully, living good, nobly in this common entity called the polis or the community, the koinonia, right? The community, this fulfillment, this type of koinonia, the polis is that koinonia by which human beings are able to actualize and achieve their happiness, their eudaimonia, right? So this is the idea, but the superintendent of the whole, right? Of the part should look to also the whole. So their education is concerned with the whole education. That the how we educate the individual should look to the question of indicating the whole city and how the part relates to the whole. One might praise the Spartans for this. In other words, that the Spartans do kind of look at this, but then there's criticism of the Spartans. It teaches them the wrong things, though, right? They most of all pay attention to their children and do so in common. Okay, this is their praise. He at one sense praises the Spartans, but then we should remember the criticisms of the Spartans. So they care for their children, right? They serious about education. They're serious about education, where the most other Greek cities aren't as serious. That happens. So the Spartans are praised at this point because they do this. But then the Spartans are not the role model because remember they in the previous chapter he made pointed out that their education may be because they do this, but they educate to the wrong thing, right? They teach the wrong kind of virtue, right? So let's stop here and we end here at this with chapter 1. With the praise of Spartan and the question of education and what is education in part for, the question of parts and wholes. We'll stop. This is a quick, short chapter. So if you have any comments or questions about this chapter, about chapter 1, or about the question of education, paideia, in terms of the nature of the city, please put it in there, and when I see it, I'll respond to it. If you liked it, like it, share it. Like I have other people like it. Post on social media. Get other people to come join. If you've not subscribed, subscribe. So if you know friends who have not subscribed, encourage them to subscribe. If you know someone who's interested in politics and political science and political theory, to have them subscribe. Um, um, I I'm doing the politics. I wanted to do this for a long time. We're doing this like here. If you didn't like it, you think I did something wrong, I didn't address something you thought I should address, say something. Like you can dislike it, but you can criticize. But please say what it is in the comments below. If you want to follow me on social media, you can follow me on social media. Links are below. Also below are the links to Patreon and Subscribe Star. If you wish to help me do what I'm doing here, please do this. It's getting pricey again. The cost of things are just getting expensive to do this. Taking time out of doing other things, and also raising money for buying books. So I buy my bookstore. I just 2 books in Aristotle just came out recently. They're about 120, even it's like $150 a pop. It's like, oh my God, rate me now, boy, oh God! It's like, and that's because it's libraries. But where I live, the libraries like crap. Okay, university libraries don't buy these books and like this. They're not easily available. So I wish they were a little cheaper. So I need some money to buy things, and I don't get grants for books. Every time I applied for ISI money, not ISI, Institute of Humane money for some grant or something, I don't get it because I'm not part of the right circle. Okay, I'm not part of the in crowd at the on conservatives. I'm not part of the right crowd that gets funded. I'm an exile, right? I wasn't the chosen person. I wasn't one of those people. Bracket, or a woman or a minority who gets the right, whatever kind of group among the right. Now, the right wing conservatives are just as bad as liberals. They look for the ethnic minority to promote. I just happen to be unlucky being a white male, okay? A white male, not necessarily of a great family. I wasn't, this is, so therefore conservatives were like, we don't need you. We don't need you. We're not going to give you money. We're not going to help you do things. We need like this guy over here, yeah, because we need this person because because these people typically are leftists, and if we promote them, maybe their people will be less left wing. I don't care, but that's the same silly thinking that the left engages in, and this is really sad. Sorry for that diatribe. I didn't mean to go off on that, but the way you can help me is by that, like that, or you can help me by buying my book. I've been showing this book. This is a book, August 2022. This is a notebook on Aristotle's politics. This is like Cliff's notes on the politics. You can. It's available at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and all the online distributors. Um, you can order it through there. Now, if you order it there, they're going to make some profit off of it. I'll get something from it, so I'm not going to complain. But if you order through Lulu, the publisher, directly, I will usually then get what those online publishers and bookstores will get. So I get a bigger chunk, a bigger part of the pie. So please buy it through Lulu, please. Okay, buy it through Amazon, okay, but buy it. Another way you can help is why you buy this. Well, this is like I said, Cliff's Notes like Cliff's Notes of Politics. It's designed for both introductory students and more advanced students. It offers, it looks at the book, it gives an overall picture of how to understand the book, how to access the book, understanding the chapter structures and the transition of the text, translations issues, some translation issues. Also, what it does is it looks book by chapter, looks at the themes, issues, gives some summarization of what happens in the main themes. It gives outlines. It structures the main points and outlines and themes. It gives charts, graphs of issues and themes. It addresses questions. It connects the issue of the text to other issues within political theory. Again, this is a very useful device for those studying the politics. I would seriously recommend anyone studying the politics use this as a kind of a guide. This is far better than the existing Cliff Notes or no. Trust me, I think this is an excellent thing and that should be used. And by doing this, you help me as well. But apparently, it's not getting that much attention. I wish it did. I was hoping, given that there's 100,000 students a year at American universities in Britain, Anglo-American in Britain, doing some course on history of political philosophy or political thought or history of thought, that they would read the politics in their year of time, in any year, right? At least 10,000 to 100,000. If only 1% bought the book, I would be pretty off, but I didn't even get that, so I'm kind of depressed about that. But then people say, "Well, it should be cheaper. It's like $30, man. Can't you get it for $5?" The reason why it is that price is because it is this detailed. If I give you if I try to sell it for $5, you're going to get like 10 pages, 15 pages. And what can you get from it? There is, like I said, it's not only assistance, bibliography aspects of scholar help you do this. Again, I'm using someone else. I've got my friend did this, and he asked me if I could use it. I asked if I could use it because I was do a student guide. Why recreate the wheel in that sense? But again, the graphs, notes, charts, and sections after every book, there's a place where you can even take your notes. That you can actually even add your own notes to a page, right? Someone says, "Well, strip that." Well, that's like only I lose 8 pages. Okay, that's not going to write off the page anything. It's not going to make it $10 cheaper. So it's a good price. I think it's a fair price. If you buy it, it helps me and it helps you. If you have a friend or a student that you know is going to be studying this, buy it from this gift. Well, that's it. Next time we see each other, we'll look at chapter 2. That's it for now. Take care and bye bye. Have a good day.